All right, everybody. Good evening. I'm here with Mike McGivern. Now, if I get any of this wrong, Mike, you have to fix me, okay? Because I don't have a huge staff like you do to do all my.
Oh, yeah. Sounds good.
But you've been around sports for, if I did my research right, about 35 years, coaching and stuff.
Yep. I've been coaching 35 years.
That's crazy. And you started in radio in 2003. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yep.
And what stations have you been with?
In Milwaukee, WMYX, 103.7 KISS FM, and then the sports station, which we have an AM and an FM, 105.7 FM The Fan, and 1250 AM WSSP. Yeah.
So the Varsity Blitz, which I've been on, is the sports station, correct?
Correct. Yep. I'm a sales rep and account executive for the three stations, and then I'm on the air on the sports station with a number of shows.
Okay. So why I love what you do is, I think high school sports is kind of going a little bit of the way of the dinosaur as far as the media goes. And I think you guys do such a good job in the Milwaukee area, having coaches from all over on there. It's one of my must listens to be honest with you. I love listening to it.
I appreciate that, Coach, a lot, because as you know, because we've had this conversation, I have a tremendous amount of respect for you and the work you've done at Madison Memorial. For a while I watched from afar, and then I reached out to you one time, and you were like, "Man, I listen to your show every week. I'd love to come on." Had you come down? Actually, had you come in studio with your son a few years ago, and it was really a highlight. I appreciate that.
I can tell you're getting old because it wasn't a few years ago. Drew was like 9, and now he's like 15. So I think something.
Oh man, yeah, I am getting old, Coach. It doesn't seem like it was 6 years ago.
It does.
Wow.
It was 5 or 6. It was a while ago because he was a little guy.
Well, I appreciate you 4 minutes into our conversation letting me know how old I've gotten. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. So what I tend to do is why don't you tell us about your coaching journey, like how it started,
Sure.
Kind of how it developed, and I'll jump in when I hear some good stuff.
Yeah, you bet. I was 17 years old, and I started coaching grade school basketball at where I went to grade school, St. Peter and Paul, which is now Catholic East. It's a grade school on the east side of Milwaukee. And I have to tell you that there was a couple of steps through this journey that I still kind of shake my head at. I was coaching a 6th grade team, and the head coach from Marquette University at that time was Bob Duquette. And all of a sudden I looked in the crowd, and Coach Duquette had a bag of popcorn and was sitting by himself on a Sunday afternoon watching my team play. And we ended up winning a game, and I got in the locker room, and there was a knock on the door, and he said, "Coach, you got a minute?" I said, "Yeah." And he went to introduce himself. I said, "Coach Duquette, I know who you are. What are you doing here?" And he said, "You know what? I was walking past, and I heard the whistle and the squeak of the sneaker, and I, paid my $2 to get in, got a bag of popcorn." He said, "Your boys run the flex pretty well." And I said, "Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that." And he said, "Do you have any interest coaching my summer camp down at Marquette?" And I said, "Yeah, I'd love that." So when the time came, I went down there for a meeting, and we're sitting around a table with a bunch of coaches, and Coach Duquette said, "Hey, could you everybody introduce yourself and let us know where you coach?" And the first guy was an assistant coach at Nebraska, and the next guy was an assistant coach at like Oral Roberts or something, and then me. And I said, "I'm a 6th grade boys basketball coach at St. Peter and Paul on the east side of Milwaukee." And the guy from Nebraska started laughing. And Coach Duquette said, "I don't know what you're laughing about. His kids run the flex way better than your kids." And then everybody laughed. And well, the camp was at Dominican High School. Okay. And I'd been at it now a few years. And the guy who was the head coach at Dominican back then was a guy named Rich Fanning. Okay. And I introduced myself to Rich, and we worked the camp for that week. And at the end of the week, he said, "Mike, I'd like for you to come and be my assistant." And I said, "Richie, I'm just a grade school basketball coach." He said, "No, I don't think so." And so I was his assistant for a couple of years. He ended up leaving. I got the head JV job, and they gave me enough of a budget to hire one assistant, and I hired Paul Wallershawn as my assistant.
Well, that's not a bad hire.
And
In retrospect,
not a bad. That was a good hire.
Yeah, good
and
hire.
so he was my assistant at Dominican for 2 years. I then left Dominican. My wife and I had our second child, and I went back to coaching grade school with the idea that, and Paul moved up, got the head varsity job. And the idea was once my son got his own team, I would come back. So I then came back to Dominican as his assistant for 5 or 6 years. We won a couple of state championships.
Yeah, you beat
and
us.
then
You beat us.
yeah, we did. We did beat you guys in a tournament, and I then left there and I went over to Calvary Baptist, which is a small Christian school in Menominee Falls, where my son went to high school, and I ended up coaching there for 3 years. We won. We actually won 3 Christian state championships in the Christian schools, and I then went to Heritage Christian for a year. And my son was a freshman at Maranatha Baptist Bible College. After that 1 year at Heritage Christian, I retired to go watch him play, and was out of it then for a few years. Coach Wallersheim got the job at Martin Luther, and called me and said, "Hey, we're back." And I said, "We're back where?" And he said, "We're back coaching, man, you and me." I said, "Paulie, I got to call my wife, man. I have no idea what she's going to think." And it's now been two years, so 35 years total coaching basketball, and it's been a really good journey, I have to tell you.
I find it funny from having talked to a handful of coaches and hoping to talk to a lot more, what a small world and community the coaching community is, and that you never know when one of those doors is going to open. Like, it's crazy to me.
It is, and there has been some ups and downs, mostly ups. I can tell you, and in all honesty, the 1 year at Heritage Christian was a different kind of experience for me. Stephen, in my professional life, in relationships, nobody's ever broken up with me.
Right.
And I spent 1 year at Heritage Christian. We were, I think, 13 and 11 or something like that. And I got fired.
Right.
And I didn't understand it, and I asked why, and the athletic director didn't know. And he said it came down from the head of the school board. So I got a hold of the guy from the head of the school board, and I said, "Look, it's already done, but I just need to understand it.
Right.
I need some closure before I can move forward." And he said, "I wasn't happy with who you named leaders on that team." And I said, "I don't know what that means. What does that mean?" And he said, "You named this one kid a captain. Nobody likes that kid." And I said, "What a weird thing for an adult to say." And he had a son on the team, and I said, had I named your son a captain? And he said, "Yeah, you'd probably be planning for year 2. And I said, "Well, I appreciate your honesty."
And that's good.
But,
I think captains, to be honest with you, is the most overrated thing we do.
It's ridiculous.
I haven't named a captain in 15 years. 15 years.
And
you know what? Whoever goes to the center circle at the beginning of the first game is my captain.
There you go. This was a group that needed this. They had some seniors. There wasn't a lot of direction. Nobody really. Some kids wanted to play. Some kids didn't want to play. And that team, Steve, and you'll understand this, and coaches that listen to this will understand. Had I given each of those boys, those seniors, there were 7 of them, true serum,
right,
and said, "Would you prefer to score 25 and lose or 10 and win?" 5 out of the 7, it would have came back 25 and lose.
Yeah,
it was just a really difficult group to coach.
And in retrospect, my team this year, the true serum would have gone the other way.
Which is awesome, and that's why you ended up where you were.
It was because that's what people don't understand. When that little magic spell happens, it's the greatest thing a coach experiences.
Yeah, I agree with that. When kids don't care, from 1 to 12 or 1 to 15, no matter how many kids you have on the team, and I had to look this up a while ago, but the definition in the Webster Dictionary for the word team is 2 or more horses pulling in a similar direction for a common goal. And if you can get a full team of guys that are willing to do that,
yep,
that could care less who scores, could be guys that are coming off the bench or staying on the bench, but really fully invested in the team, that for me is when the magic happens.
Well, and we do a lot of, we practice the bench. We practice how they're supposed to cheer. And I think you got to teach kids everything you want them to do, to be honest with you. If you want them to cheer, you better teach them how to cheer, you know?
Yeah. That's awesome. You know, I don't know if we've done that in the past. This group that we had this year, there was one or two kids that fully bought into their role. I mean, outside of, you know, the top 8,
right,
really fully bought into their role. They got a little ticked off about not playing a little bit more, but man, these guys on the bench, they not only got the bench going, they got the crowd going. It was really fun to see, and it makes it a much more enjoyable experience.
It's perfect. So let's talk some general things. What's your feeling on the state of high school basketball? Not just even. What do you think? What do you think of that?
You know, I see the lack of seniors on rosters, and that scares me a little bit. Yep. You know, it's gotten to the point now that we had 2 seniors. Neither one played a lot this year, but I look at other rosters, and very seldom do I see a roster with 8, 9 seniors. You know, more of a 3 or 4 is what the norm is.
Yeah.
And kids that are saying, "Hey, look, if I'm not going to start, I'm not going to spend that much time doing this. I'm going to look for other things to do." And that kind of scares me a little bit for the future, because if these kids don't understand that when you get out into the real world, sometimes you're not going to be in the top 5 of a company.
Right.
Sometimes you got to be a role player.
Right.
And so that's a concern that I have. The other concern I have, Steve, I don't see a lot of young referees anymore, at least in the Milwaukee area. And, you know, the referees that we've had for a long time. And very seldom do I, you know, get out on the court and look to see who the ref is and not know that guy, right, and not know that he's done games of mine for 20 years.
Right.
And so I'm concerned with that.
Yeah, and I don't know the answer to either one of those questions, to be honest with you. Yeah, I think there's a lot of self-cutting, in the sense that you're, like you said, if they're not good enough, they just don't come out.
And you know what, Steve? What's not good enough? Not good enough that they're not going to be the leading scorer.
Yeah,
not good enough that they're not in the top 5. Not good enough they're in the top 7. You know, the kids that have, you know, put a little sweat equity into the program, are they going to stick around even if the sophomores are a little bit better than they are, and you know they're going to get more playing time?
Right.
You know, can they be leaders from the number 9, 10, 11 spot on the bench? Can they still be a leader? Yeah, for sure.
Yes. And
it's just a different type of leadership. And I think the kids that stick through it, especially when you have a good year, really, really enjoy it.
And the thing is, I think part of it's a specialization thing too, a little bit. Like, I'm going to just go play baseball, or I'm just going to go lift, or I'm going to go do something like that. Yeah, and then the official thing, I don't know what the answer to the official thing is. But they've upped the numbers of officials, so now we're at 3 rather than 2. But I don't know what it's a tough gig. At least they get to leave the gym.
Well, you know what, Steve? I got asked, I guess 2 years ago now, to go and speak at a like a banquet, or it was a referee meeting, and the guy said, "Look, we normally will get 15, 16 guys at this." He said, "As soon as I put it out that you were going to be our guest speaker," he said, "we got 45 guys coming." And I went in and I was brutally honest. I said, "Guys, here's the issue that I have, is that these players and these coaches are going, you know, 12 months a year now, and it means a lot to them. And when I get a chance, and I'm not the guy in the best of shape, I understand that, but I'm not reffing either. And when I see guys that can't get up and down the court anymore, and you're able to just basically, you know, go in, do your game, and then go have a beer or soda and go home and not worry about it. But when you're not in the right position and you don't sell your call, that affects that program. That affects the team, that affects the coaching staff, affects the players. You just get to go home and go to bed. We're up a lot watching film and not understanding why some of these things are happening. And all I would do is ask you to please be in the right position and please sell the call. if you're in the right position, you're going to sell the call. I don't have a problem with any of it. Because I think, well, he's in the right position. He sold the call. He must have saw something. But when you don't do that, and you have very little time or patience to even discuss anything with coaches, I have an issue with that. And it got a little heated, I have to be honest with you. But at the end, I think it was pretty good. But talking to these guys, I had some of these refs stand up and say, look, I agree with him because I'm in the gym every day for 12 months. And I make sure that I can get up and down the court with these guys. A lot of you guys can't, and I partner with you guys. And it makes my job a lot harder because you don't take it serious enough.
Right.
And so it was interesting.
And it's interesting. It's like, so this is our craft. This is what we do. This is what I mean, rather than go fishing and do other things, this is what I do. I coach basketball. So I spend, you're right, 12 months out of the year thinking about it, tweaking it, working on it. And I've had maybe a handful of officials, and I've had a couple more recently ask for tape, like to evaluate themselves, not me evaluate them, but to ask. And I've had a couple crews in the last couple of years ask for tape. I will literally send it to them within 24 hours. It's like, here you go. Go watch your job. If it makes you a better official, I'm more than willing to help you.
Yeah, I love it when we got asked by one guy this year.
Right.
And we sent it off really quickly, like you, because here's a guy, and he's a younger guy, and he's pretty good. And he's the one asking.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he wants to get better. Yeah, I like that a lot.
That should almost be a requirement that they have to sit in groups or something, because you're right. These kids and the coaches spend so much time preparing. I'm not sure the officials spend the same amount of time, because a lot of them go from football to, because we're running out of them. We're going from football
right.
to basketball to baseball, and I'm not sure.
Yeah, I agree, and they talked about that, and they said, hey, look, you can do multiple sports, but understand that you have to make sure that you're in good enough shape, especially for basketball, to be able to get up and down the court, and you understand that the game has gotten bigger, faster, with quicker guys.
Right.
And if you can't get up and down the court, then stop taking varsity basketball games.
Right. Yes, at the highest level, especially. Yes, it's
correct. Yep.
All right, so let's go on a side note here. So even though the people listen to this all over, we're going to talk about the WIA, which is the association that runs high school basketball in Wisconsin.
Okay.
I believe there's a movement that they don't like what's going on right now with private schools.
Well, that started a long time ago. Steve, I've been a private school coach for a long time. And it's funny because when I started and the WISAA whistle was around,
right,
we would win a state championship and the public school boys would say, oh, big deal. Why don't you come play us?
Right.
You want to prove something, come play us. And then we did.
Right.
And then the public school, then you guys were like, hey, you guys must be cheating, because there's no way that you should be able to beat us.
Right. So I don't know. I've got a couple solutions. I'm interested in what your solutions are, and then I'll throw mine out there that I think could possibly work. But one of my theories is you got to play who's in front of you. I could, as someone that's had a pretty successful program, I could be pretty mad at Germantown and Stevens Point. They won the last 6 state titles in Division I, which is our biggest division. But they're really, really good. How mad can I be? They just got really good coaches and really good teams. But what was your solution? Because I know there's an undertow, especially after Destiny won Division IV this year, that there's going to be some sort of movement. I know there's talk of another division. I know there's talk of a private-only division. I know there's talk of all sorts of things. What's your thought?
Well, you know what? I think that I think if you look at other sports, you look at, has anybody said anything about Kimberly in football?
Oh yeah, I never thought about Kimberly.
Nobody, right? You haven't heard. There hasn't been one person that said, "Hey, we got to do something about Kimberly." Right. Anybody say anything about Brookfield East winning Division II in football?
No,
nothing, right?
Right.
Anybody, Catholic Memorial finally won one in Division III. So there's one in football. Division IV I think Amherst might have been 4. Division 6 was a private school, so 2 out of the 7 were private schools in football. And so you don't hear much about that.
Right.
You don't hear, nobody says, hey, Kimberly and Arrowhead, this is getting out of hand. We can't keep having these guys win all the time. Homestead, nobody says anything about that. But let Dominican win 4 or 5 in a row. Nobody said a thing about Randolph when they won that many, right?
Right.
Nobody said anything. When I was at Dominican years ago,
right.
What's that?
It seems to be basketball more driven than golf or tennis. I mean, I don't follow sports as much, but I know
sure.
A lot of golf state titles in Madison.
Well, think about Randolph again. If you just want to stick with basketball, if you just think about Randolph and say, okay, well, why is it that everybody complained when Dominican won that, but nobody said a stinking word when it was Randolph? Right? And then you look at Stevens Point, like you said, and Germantown. People are like, that's great. What a great program that is.
Right.
But then they said, well, Dominican must cheat.
Right.
They got to cheat because there's no chance they would win this thing if they didn't cheat.
Right.
So, Xavier won Division 3 and Destiny won Division 4. So you're going to get some people saying, well, hold on, that's not fair. Well, what can I tell you? I know when I was coaching football a million years ago, coached for 1 or 2 years at Dominican, and we were playing against Catholic Memorial on the varsity team. And they were up like 42-0 with 3 minutes to go. And they ran a double reverse bomb for a touchdown. And after the game, I went to the men's room, and Bill Young, the head coach at Catholic Memorial, was in there. And I said, was that necessary? He said, you didn't like that? I said, no. He said, then get better. That's not on me. That's on you. Get better. And that won't happen to you.
Right.
And I said, okay, coach, I think you're right, actually. I think you're right. So I don't, if people want to talk about private to public, I'll have that conversation all day long. Steve, at Madison Memorial, do you guys have a youth program?
We do.
Great. What grade do those kids start?
3rd grade.
Third grade.
Yeah.
So at Martin Luther, like most of the private schools, I introduce the freshmen to each other as they come into their first practice.
Right.
Their first day of school.
Right.
I've got to introduce them.
Right.
And so would I prefer to have kids starting in 3rd grade running the stuff I'm running? Yeah, you bet. Right. But there's no chance I can do that.
Right, because you're grabbing from spots. Yeah.
Right. Would I prefer if these kids don't have to pay tuition to come into school? Yeah, I would love that.
Right.
I can tell you this, years ago when I was at Dominican, if I went to watch an 8th grade kid play, and I would be sitting right next to Jimmy Goss when he was at Milwaukee King, somebody would walk up and go, you're recruiting. And I'd go, what's he doing? He's watching. And I go, wait a second. So he can watch a game, but I can't?
Right.
No, you're recruiting. And I'd say, I'm not recruiting because that's illegal, but I could recommend and highly suggest because that's not illegal. Right. So,
what do you think the system is good the way it is? Do you think it's too many divisions, not enough?
I think there's too many divisions. I would, if I could wave my wand and go back to 8 Division I schools up there, and then only have 4 divisions. So have an 8 Division I and then 4, 4, and 4. I would do that in a heartbeat. Yes. I think it's a shame that only 4 Division I schools get to go up there. Yeah. I would love to go back to 8.
I would too, and I don't think that's ever going to happen. But that's in my wand. That would be. So here's the math teacher in me. I've been thinking about things that we could possibly do that would have a chance, because I don't think they're ever going to go back that way. Even though Thursday its attendance looks like it wasn't that great this year again. Here's one that probably no one's thought of, is leave the 5 divisions the way they are right now. And then when you get to the Kohl Center, 1 plays 2, 3 plays 4. So you put those 8 teams together and those 8 teams together and you seed them and you go. Because to be honest with you, La Crosse Central could have competed for the state title this year. Still could have seen
Sure.
So that would make it more games you play, and then you'd leave Division 5 the way it is. That would take care of maybe some of the issues that people are having. There'd only be 3 state titles, though.
Hey, why do you think, and not to go back, because I know we want to look forward, why do you think we went to 5 divisions? And we can, you know what, Steve, we can be politically correct with this.
I don't have
or
to
we can
podcast. This is called Coach Unplugged. I don't have to. I just have to think about how I want to respond. So there's a couple things. First thing is, I think that there were small Division I schools like La Crosse Central, like Cedarburg, that didn't have an opportunity to get there. So I think that was the first thing. Because we beat La Crosse Central in 05, I think, to go. That was on our trail to win it. That's the first thing. I think the second thing is the WIA is made up of small schools. The Board of Control is made up of superintendents from smaller schools, which probably are from 3 to 5. And us big schools don't have the pull in the system the way it's set up right now. Even though we deal with more kids, even though after spending last week seeing, we hadn't been there since 2012, seeing what it did to a large school and how it brought community together. I mean, I got emails from pom parents and, band parents and all these things that said, wow, what a great experience for our kids. We're dealing with 2,000 kids. We're not dealing with 200. So the impact that has on the number of kids in our school, when you sell 1,500 tickets to the student body, it's crazy. And I think that's lost in the shuffle a little bit. Actually, I think it's lost a lot in the shuffle. So I don't think we have the pull. So I think those two were the biggest factors of the Board of Control being controlled by smaller schools. And then those smaller D1s, like the Wanakees, the Cedarburgs, the La Crosse Centrals, didn't think they had a shot to get to the Kohl Center. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I do think a lot of that has to do with it. I'm just wondering if there was other issues with certain teams throughout the state that didn't feel the way it was that they were going to be able to get there again with some of the private schools, and with the addition, they were able to move down a division, or one of those other schools were able to move. I think there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that I would love to know.
The problem is it's backfiring because Milwaukee public schools are breaking up into small schools.
Yep.
And
they are.
They're breaking. So the Milwaukee King's a great high school. Actually, it's an IB school. But there's some of those schools are breaking up into schools of 2, 3, 400, 100. That's how Milwaukee, what MPS is doing to try to break the achievement gap. They're breaking those big schools into smaller ones. Well, guess what's going to happen? That some of those smaller schools are going to get better at basketball, and all of a sudden they're going to be they're going to have 200 kids, and they're going to be competing against 200 kids from Northeast Wisconsin. And it's good luck. I mean, it's going to happen once in a while, but not very often. So it's actually I think.
Here's the other thing, and again, I'm a Milwaukee guy, born and raised. I've lived my entire life in the city of Milwaukee. Now with school choice, so the other thing that's happened is, it used to be that city conference teams were 7, 8, 9 deep, and now they're 3, 4 deep.
Right.
And so some of those kids are going to the Dominicans, to the Martin Luthers, to Mesmer, to Destiny, to the Science Academy. I used to say, if in the city of Milwaukee, if you put all the basketball players on a court and you let King take their 10, let Vincent take their 10, and Washington take their 10, and I get the rest,
right? I
think I can win a state championship.
Yeah,
but it's not like that anymore.
Right.
It's not like that. And the other thing with AAU basketball, kids get pretty comfortable playing against anybody now.
Right.
Where, and I had Jim Goss a number of years ago in the studio, and he's the one who said this. He said, look, it used to be back in the day, whoever has the most African-American players is going to win. That's kind of like what we thought of out in the suburbs. And he said that whole pendulum has changed now,
right?
Because of AAU basketball. Nobody gets intimidated anymore. You know, they've played each other all summer long, and now they know each other. It doesn't matter anymore. But
Right.
I think the idea of having these kids and school choice, where kids and parents can say, "Look, I would love my kid to get a private school type um, chance to go through their academics."
Right.
Because I think maybe they're held a little bit more accountable, might be a little more difficult. If I can do that, we're going to look to do that. And I don't think any of us would say, well, that's not a good thing. It
Right.
is a good thing. If
Right.
you get a chance to get a better education, don't you want to do that for your child?
Have you watched the Hurley thing on Showtime? It's on YouTube too. You watch that?
You know, I have not, but I will.
It's like on episode 5 right now, and it's on YouTube.
Okay.
But it's really good. It's like, just, I don't know. Basically, it's talking about how St. Anthony's is kind of dying in New Jersey, and he's basically keeping it alive single-handedly.
Really?
Oh yeah, and you know how the diocese isn't going to back it. I'm only on episode 3 right now, but it's really good. Obviously, one of the best coaches in the country.
Right.
But it's more than about the basketball. It's about how he's trying to keep that private school alive for kids in New Jersey. It's really good.
Hey, speaking of that, did you happen to see on Facebook the head coach from UConn? Did you happen to see that press conference?
I did. It was talking about body language, right?
Yes, it was. In fact, on the big show today here at Sports Radio 105.7 FM, The Fan, they called me in and said, "Will you have a discussion with us on this?" I said, "Sure." And it's Rami Makloff and Steve Sparky Pfeiffer and Leroy Butler.
Okay.
So Leroy Butler was saying, "Hey, look, if I had a daughter, I wouldn't send her to him because I don't. If that's what he's doing, I don't think he's a very good teacher." And I said, "What? Are you kidding?" And he said, "No."
I would agree with you. I think he's a great teacher.
I said, "Leroy, who do you think he was teaching? That it was a great teaching moment for him, for every incoming kid that he has for the next 15 years, that he can say to them, look, I took what could have been the best basketball player in the history of my program, and I sat her down for 35 minutes because we had discussion after discussion after discussion about body language and about how you act as a player on my team. And if that didn't work, let's see if this works."
Yeah.
So that was a great teaching moment. So if you want somebody who's a great teacher.
One of the coaches I had growing up said the bench is the best teacher. It's the best teacher. It is. And I've always remembered that. When you put them on that, it's I think it's labeled G1 in our gym. If I say G1 to my players, or H1, it's either G1 or H1. If I say that to them, they know that's the bench and that's where they don't want to be. I go, that's not, you do not want to sit there. You want to play. But no, I think that's a great, I disagree with Mr. Butler on that one a lot. Actually.
Yeah, I do too. Hey, I have another question for you. I do a show called Faith in the Zone, where I talk to men and women all over the country that'll come on, and I was talking to the head football coach at Eastern Michigan University, and I said, Coach, you know, I've coached for a long time. I'm wondering, do you feel as though I do? And that is that the players nowadays are different. They've changed because of social media and a lot of things out that they can get involved with. Do you feel like they've changed? And I fully expected him to agree with me. He said, Mike, I don't think so. I think that the thing is you and I have changed. He said, when I started coaching football in college, I was 25 years old. I was one of them. I was single. I was out having a beer once in a while. I was those guys. Well, then 10 years later, I'm 35. I'm married and have 3 kids.
Right.
So I changed. And he said, now I'm 45, still married. My kids are older, but I'm not one of them anymore. I'm the old married guy that has kids. I've changed. I don't think they've changed that much. I think it's me. And that made me think a lot. Because I kept thinking this whole narrative of, boy, these kids are different. They're different. They're different. Well, maybe it's not them. Maybe it's us.
Yeah, I mean, that's Bobby Knight's theory. The kids haven't changed. The parents have.
Wow.
And it's true. And the thing is, I am on social media. I do that stuff because I'm 50. I feel like I have to connect with them. So I want to be in the world that they're in. I haven't gotten on Snapchat yet because I don't quite get that. But the other stuff,
Yeah, me neither.
I just kind of want to figure out the world that they're navigating. And my brother made a good comment because my kids were younger, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And I said, God, this whole Twitter, and I'm not letting them on Facebook. He goes, no, that's the world they live in. You just have to teach them how to be in that world because it's not going anywhere. Smartphones aren't going anywhere. So that's what I tell them. That's part of my job as a coach too. I think I have to teach them, how do you use social media? How do we use it for our advantage? How do we use it for good rather than evil? Kind of using like a comic book thing.
Yeah, you know what, Coach? It's really funny. It's funny that you say that. We on my high school football coaches show a year ago. We had an assistant coach from Southern Mississippi University that was in studio with us, and his full job is on Thursday. They will give him a list of players they're looking to recruit, and his job, they'll give him a list of 20, 25 players. His job is to take the weekend and find out about those kids. And he said, look, a lot of these guys think they're slick. They'll have 2 different Facebook pages, one where they're in church and one where they're at some bar, having, fun.
Right.
I find all of them.
Right.
I find everything.
It's not that hard to find them. Yeah.
No, it's not. It is not.
So going back to the NBA thing, I think another solution is 3 divisions of 8. I'm just not sure you can do it in one venue. The less divisions.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that either. And the tough part for that is the timing on it.
Yep.
If you could, I would, man, Steve. I just wish we would go back to 4 divisions with 8 Division I teams up at state.
I know.
I think that was the magic number. I just do, and that way you got 8 of the biggest schools from the state of Wisconsin going at it, and you got a chance to see some unbelievable talent up there.
Yeah.
And I think they messed with it. I don't like that there's only 4 Division I teams that get a chance to go.
Right, and I think the part of the problem is, and this is an argument I made when they were making the change, was Thursday night, the only thing that can compete with NCAA basketball, because the Badgers, if you looked at the Division IV game, I took a picture of it. The stands were like 1,000 people. It was crazy because the Badgers were playing. The only people
right.
who can compete with Division NCAA basketball March Madness on Thursday night is Division I boys basketball. It's the only thing.
Yep.
It's not Division IV. It's not Division III. Because people will go, they'll watch, they'll get they'll go back and forth, they'll watch it on their phones. But I don't know. I just don't. The reason I'm not fighting for that is because I think we can't win that battle. I just don't know. I don't know if that will ever happen.
Well, and that's too bad. You follow the money a lot of times with decisions like this,
yes.
But that wasn't it, because you look at the crowds.
Yeah.
Are you telling me that if you have 8 Division I schools that you're not going to get bigger crowds than some of the Division V schools?
Well, and they have less games too. They took games away because it used to be more games. Thursday morning used to have games. So there's less games than there used to be too.
And there's no, remember what a big deal it was when your boys could get on that floor for 30 minutes?
Oh, I'm telling you, I am the most upset about that. That is
me too. Me too.
That is the biggest issue that I have with the movement that they've made. Okay, you want to go 5 Division IV teams, but I want to go because first of all, everyone's happy. Everybody's made the state tournament. But and you get 20 minutes on the court. You get to have some fun. That 15th guy who's been a good teammate gets to go out on the cold center floor, shoot the basket.
Yep.
They can tell their kids about it when they're our age. It just totally ruined it when they got rid of it. I made that argument.
Yeah.
With it. I said I've experienced it. I know what it's like. I mean, I have a picture of Drew when he's 6 standing next to me on that court. I cherish that picture because that was the time with him and me, and there was no pressure, and everyone was happy. And
hey, speaking of the WIA, did you happen to see when Deb Hauser didn't let the young man hug his sister?
I did. It went viral, and it's been taken off of Twitter now.
I know. Deb Hauser will come on my show every once in a while, and you know she has a passion, a love for this. Boy, that I'm not quite sure how you spin that to make it look good.
No,
That didn't look good for them.
And to defend, very, very rarely will you hear me do this, to defend the WIA, because I'm telling you, there's kids in my class were going, we're going to rush the court if we win it, coach. Well, no, you're not. No, you're not. Trust me. People have tried it. You're not going to do it. It's the safety of, because when we won sectionals, the crowd, my guys went over to the crowd, and my point guard ended up with 2 staples and a tetanus shot. So I understand the safety issue, and I understand keeping people off the floor. I really do. But I think what came out of this is something good, that now they know it's important for parents and families to have that moment, because that's a shining moment, if I could steal it from the NCAAs.
Sure.
Because they had a hug zone or something now at the state tournament this year, where you need to be able to do that. Win or lose, parents want to comfort their kids. They want to celebrate, right. They want to comfort. So I think something good is going to come out of that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I do as well. And I kind of felt bad for her, because, you know, it just made – it did not make her look good.
No, and it wasn't mean. I mean, when you're in that position, just like as a coach, I'm worried about my guys. She's worried about the safety of all those people. It wasn't that you can't hug. No, it's just more that we got to get up. The bigger issue, Angie Murphy, who's the girls' coach at Verona, her one of her big issues is after they won the state title, those kids did not get to see their parents until they got back to Verona. Because that's not good. That's not good, because what happens, they won the state title, they go out one way, the parents get kicked out of the rec center, and there was no connection there. You know, so we've been spoiled here that we can kind of make a connection in Madison, but that's something they definitely have to fix, where there has to be some sort of connection. You know, the kids just won the state title. Let them see their parents for 5 minutes, you know.
Yeah.
And take pictures or do whatever. But.
Hey, I got another question for you. Yeah. It's about teachhoops.com.
Okay.
This is, and I hope that you understand, because you're in that bubble and you do a ton of work on this thing. This is really good.
I hope it is.
There isn't.
I hope it is. I hope it is.
Coach, I have to tell you, it's really good. And there are coaches that come on my show and they'll talk about it during the break. They'll be like, "Hey, are you on that?" And I'll be like, "Yeah." They're like, "Man, Collins does. He certainly stays busy with this stuff." And I love the fact.
Yeah.
What's that?
I said no. He doesn't sleep. He's a vampire. Yeah.
He doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't get a ton of sleep. But you know what? I love the fact that there are times that you'll post things outside of basketball, but it's coaching. Right. It's you know, this part of, you know, this football coach said this, or I just, for people that haven't seen it or haven't been a part of it, you know, I would really take a look at teachhoops.com and get involved in it.
The fun part for me is, so that's fine. The newsletter's great. And I got all sorts of video. I mean, basically any video you'd ever want to watch on basketball, by the time I'm done, I think, because I just launched it in October. So by the time I'm done, I'm gonna hopefully set up a roadmap for a coach, so they can, you know, if they need offensive stuff, they go here. Again, it's a work in progress. And I've got my son's godfather is the strength and conditioning coach. He kind of runs the thing for the UW. So he's going to help me out, do some stuff. But anyway, so the bigger issue for me is kind of like you and I are doing. There's a couple coaches that I was able to mentor. They joined teachhoops.com, and then, you know, I'm able to help them. You know, we have a Facebook group. And I had teleconference like this, because I think about when I was a young coach, I just wanted somebody to talk to.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want necessarily my assistant coaches, because a lot of them were, you know, they're going to say whatever, you know, they're going to argue with you, but they're really not going to look at it from a different standpoint. So that's why I started it, because I wanted something that I would have wanted in my 20s, to become a better coach. That's it. Doesn't matter if I was a youth coach or an AU coach or a high school coach. I just wanted to get better. And you and I are so old that it was VHS tapes.
Yes. Yeah. Again, you got to keep coming back to my age, but yes, it was. Yeah. In fact, Coach, maybe the second or third year I was coaching, I had a parent taped the game for me. And it was a big camera, a big VHS tape.
Right.
And she said, look, I taped this game for you. And I said, thanks. She was, I didn't do it for the reason you think I did. And please don't be mad at me. And she walked away. And she taped what a complete jerk I was on the sidelines as a 19-year-old or an 18-year-old.
Yep.
And I went over to her house and I hugged her. And she goes, you're not mad at me? I said, no, I can't thank you enough. I had no idea.
Right.
And 34 years later, I think about that.
Yep. Yep. It's amazing what I was at 22. And the thing is, you and I, so this isn't making an excuse for you and I, but we did grow up Bobby Knight era.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
And everybody wanted to be him, basically, and it was like we all thought that was the solution, and it wasn't. We've learned that, at least I have, with age. And especially with this generation, that doesn't work. Criticism's about 1/10 of what I give my guys, to be honest with you. The rest of it's hugs and corrections and great job, because that's the generation we're raising, I think.
Yeah, me. Hey, if I can go back to the website, one of the things that I really like is everyone when you throw out a question of the day.
Yep.
I think it was earlier this month. It was, what is your timeout route? When do you take timeouts? Do you have a routine with timeouts? And though I may not comment on it, I read all of that.
Right.
I read everything that these guys are saying, and I think, wow, that okay, this guy does it this way, and this guy thinks it's better this way. It's really, even for a guy like me who's been around a long time, we learn new stuff every day if we look for it.
Right.
And I like the fact that you do that different question of.
Okay, I'll keep doing that.
Of the day.
Some of them click, some of them don't. But I've got like 200 of them all queued up. I just got to send them out. So I didn't. That's good. I'm glad you said something, because I'll keep doing it if people like it.
Yeah, if you would, and you know what, please don't get discouraged if you don't get a lot of response, but understand that there are some of us that read all the responses.
Right.
The one question that you had, it may have been end of February, something like that, about momentum changing during a game.
Right.
And it was like, there was some comments on there that I thought, man, okay, that makes sense to me. Other times where I think somebody had said something about, trying to call a set play and get points that way.
Right.
I thought, okay, either that, or can you then change up a press, or can you run something a little bit different, or try to get something going to the basket? So there are times that I want to, get in there and add my 2 cents, but I read everything that people say on that.
Well, that's good.
So
sometimes with all this stuff, and so you're never sure if it's just going out into the world and just sitting there, that kind of thing. I'm glad you said something. All right,
beautiful.
We're gonna end with some quick questions. So
sure,
kind of my machine gun stuff. They don't necessarily have to be quick answers. So I got about 6 or 7 that I normally ask people. First one is, who's your favorite player of all time and why?
Boy, I'm gonna go back. Chris Mullin.
Ooh,
at St. John's.
I've not had Chris Mullin. That's a good one. Okay.
Chris Mullin at St. John's, because he had ice water in his veins, and he moved off the ball better than anybody I've ever seen. Anytime that the guy guarding him would turn his head, he would relocate. And he was just a really, really good basketball player.
He was. All right. Next one. If you could see one sporting event, what would it be?
Boy, that I haven't seen, or that I have seen. And
one sporting event that you could see, like maybe either way, but
yeah, it would. You know what? I haven't gone to the national finals yet, NCAA finals, and I would like to do that.
Yep, I did that when Duke won it in Minneapolis, and I think it's coming back to Minneapolis. So I'm taking Drew when it comes back to Minneapolis. I'm going.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it will be fun. I'm definitely on my bucket list. All right, if you could use one word to describe your coaching style, one word, what would it be? See, I'm different now as an assistant coach. Can I use 2 words? You can
Good
use
cop.
one as a head and one as an assistant. I'll give you a difference.
Yeah, good cop. As intense as a head coach, good
Yep.
cop as an assistant.
Okay.
And you know what, Steve? I am a way better assistant coach than I was a head coach.
Yeah, you know what I've noticed too? I have really good assistant coaches, if you haven't noticed. I mean, and the thing is, I think when you coach long enough, you're secure in what you know. Like, I turn a lot of my stuff over to my assistants. Like, a lot of my scouting, a lot of game prep, like a lot of, like, what are we going to do offensively? And then I just kind of tweak it a little bit. But I think when you get older, you're more secure. You don't have to do everything. And you
Right.
definitely need good cop, bad cop, for sure.
Yeah, and you know, with Coach Wallersheim, I think he's one of the best high school basketball coaches in the state of Wisconsin, and it's easy. Him and I work off each other really well, and we've been together for so long. And he knows that I have zero interest in his job, but
Right.
I would throw myself in front of a bus for him.
Yep. And loyalty is a key. That's yet another Bobby Knight thing. He said that was the most important thing when he hired coaches was loyalty. And
yeah, and I have that for him because I have so much respect for him.
yeah. Okay, if you could only do 3 things at practice, what would they be?
We do a drill called a dribble shoot.
Okay.
I would do that.
What is that? Can you describe it?
Yeah, it is. It's a dribble. You go. There's 2 cones. You got to cross over the cone, and it's a progression. The first one's a layup. The second is a pull up at the block. The third is a pull up off the glass a little bit deeper. And each time you get in the back of the line, there's 7 guys on one side, 7 on the other, and you're going up to the cone. And that's a defensive player, and you're going to cross over, get to the elbow, knock down a shot, and then you're going to go middle, and then on the other side, you're probably getting 16 shots up, but fairly quickly, and you're doing everything at game speed.
And
we do it every practice.
The mid-range jumper, lost.
Yes.
Lost.
It's gone. It's gone.
Kobe
The second thing if I could do 2 more drills, let me think. We do a, boy, your kid, this is hard. This is hard. I would obviously do a defensive shell drill because you have to do those. And I would, we do a lot of 5 for 0. And I think that gets old quick for these kids.
Yep.
So maybe some kind of, 4-on-4 transition drill. We can get kids in the right spot, offensively and defensively in transition.
Okay. If you could go back to yourself as a younger coach, what would you tell yourself?
To not be such a jerk. And again, that whole Bobby Knight thing where, we got into kids really hard. And I don't think it's bad to coach kids hard, but love them harder.
Yeah.
If you can love them up even harder than you coach them up, I think then you're doing something good. I didn't spend enough time in fundamentals back then. I had 6 plays and we did all these different out of bounds, and I didn't spend enough time in getting kids to be better basketball players. We won a lot of games because we ran good stuff at such an early age, but I don't know if the kids that I coached at that age progressed enough, because did I do enough back to the basket, turn face, go to work? I didn't do enough of that. So I would tell myself to get better, not worried so much about wins and losses, and get these kids prepared to play at the next level.
Okay, we should shout that off the highest mountain, because every AAU coach, every youth coach, everybody should hear that. And they don't. They're worried about Johnny winning or Susie winning the game, I think, too much.
Yeah, I agree. And a lot of those guys are younger coaches, and sometimes you hope that when they get older, I wish that they knew now what I didn't know then. That comment was,
the problem is they might not make it to be an older coach. That's the problem. That's why I feel bad.
Correct.
Yeah.
If I can, I remember winning when my son Matthew, we won a number of state AAU tournaments and state championships, 3rd, 4th to 6th grade, stuff like that. And I remember finally we got beat in the finals of it, and it was like Jamil Wilson and those guys.
Right.
And their coach, it was the same guy that I'd beaten a couple of years. You walk to the line, shake hands, and I got to go to work the next day. Well, he was laying on his back on the ground, screaming like a crazy guy as I stood and waited for him to get up to shake his hand, congratulate him. And he just was going crazy. And I said, Coach, you understand that we still got to go to work tomorrow, right? He said, don't be a sore loser. I said, no, I'm not a sore loser. It's okay. I have no issues, man. You guys beat us by 1. You guys are good, but you're acting crazy, Coach. This is it's 7th grade.
Right.
Not a big deal.
Right.
And so that guy never forgave me for that, by the way.
No, I bet it. All right, last one. Are you ready? If you could talk to one coach for an hour, who would it be? Any sport.
Any sport.
I didn't put that in there in my initial question, but it could be any sport.
Well, it would be basketball. I'm sure of that.
Living or dead.
My initial thought was Larry Brown, just because he coached everywhere and he had a lot of success, but I'm not sure it would be him. Maybe. God, that's a good one. I don't know. I had a chance, and I'm sure you have plenty of time, to sit and talk with Bo Ryan a couple of times, and that was really interesting. I thought he was the kind of guy I could sit and talk to for an hour.
Yeah. The thing about Bo is when Bo talks to you, you feel like you've known him for 50 years. It's crazy. The good ones are like that. The good ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If somebody asked you that, what was your answer to that?
I go between 3 different coaches. I go between Wooden, I go between Wooten, and I go between Coach K. Depends on my day.
Yeah, I would. Coach K wouldn't be in my top 200, 300.
Wow.
Maybe 400.
Are you a North Carolina guy or what?
Not a ton, not so much, but I have to tell you, there was a couple of things that I've read and I've heard that not too upset that Duke is knocked out of the playoffs, the tournament.
Right.
And one day I'll one day off the record I'll give you some of those.
Okay.
And I think that may change. I came up with a guy, Dean Smith.
Ooh, Dean would be really good. Yeah.
I would take Dean Smith, the guy who's my boss here at Entercom Milwaukee. He is a Tar Heel guy. He's a North Carolina guy. And he tells me stories about Dean Smith. And I think that's who, if I could spend an hour with one coach, it would be him. That's
a great answer. Well, thank you for being on. This was so much fun. I love doing this.
Steve, I really appreciate the work that you do. Thank you so much for all the time you've given me for my high school show. I can't tell you how much respect I have for you and the program you've built over there. And anytime you need anything from me, please let me know.
I will. Thank you.